Mom promised me the lake cabin again. 2 hours later, she signed it over to my stepbrother Derek. The phone call from Mom had been surprisingly breezy. "Jake, honey, I'm at the lawyer's office. We're finally settling the last of your father's estate. The cabin? It's going to be yours. Just like he always wanted. I'm driving." My hands grip the wheel, knuckles white. "Really, Mom? After all this time?" My voice sounds distant, like it's coming from the crackly car speaker itself. Relief washes over me, so potent it's almost sickening. The lake cabin, Dad's sanctuary, ours. The scent of pine needles and damp earth, a phantom from my childhood, fills the car. For a moment, I'm 10 years old again. Dad's rough hand on my shoulder. The two of us watching the sunrise paint the water gold. "Yes, sweetie. Get down here as soon as you can. We just need your signature on a few things." Click. The drive is a blur. I pull into the parking lot of Henderson and Black, the law firm that's handled our family's affairs for decades. The air inside is cool, sterile, a stark contrast to the warm May afternoon. It carries that distinct smell of old legal documents, a dry, slightly sweet scent like decaying paper, mingling unpleasantly with the faint, cloying aroma of Mom's signature vanilla perfume. She must be here already. My heart thuds a nervous rhythm against my ribs. This is it. I find them in a conference room. Mom dabbing at her eyes with a lace-trimmed handkerchief. A performance, I suspect. And Derek, my stepbrother, smirking. He sits beside Mom, his arm draped possessively over the back of her chair. A cold knot forms in my stomach. Why is he here? Mr. Henderson, a man whose face seems permanently etched with sympathetic concern, gestures to an empty chair. "Jake, thank you for coming on such short notice." His voice is graveled, like stones shifting at the bottom of a river. "No problem," I manage, my gaze flicking between Mom and Derek. "So, the papers for the cabin?" Mom sniffles. "Jake, darling, there's been a slight adjustment to the arrangements." The knot in my stomach tightens. I can feel the blood draining from my face. Adjustment? The word tastes like ash in my mouth. The scent of vanilla from Mom seems to intensify, suffocating. Mr. Henderson slides a sheaf of papers across the polished mahogany table. The top document, an official-looking deed, swims before my eyes. I force myself to focus on the names. My eyes scan, searching for Jacob Samuel Peterson. Instead, they land on Derek Michael Riley. My breath catches. The room tilts. It feels like the floor has dropped out from under me. I can hear the distant hum of traffic, the ticking of a grandfather clock in the hallway, the rustle of Mom's dress. Each sound is amplified, distorted. My entire world narrows to that single damning name. Derek. What is this? My voice is barely a whisper. I can feel a tremor starting in my hands, a deep, primal rage beginning to bubble up from some forgotten depth within me. I fight to keep my expression neutral, to not let them see the devastation. Mom reaches out, her hand fluttering near mine before retreating. "Jake, please understand. Derek has a family now. Little ones. They need a place like the cabin. You're still single. Her voice trails off, her eyes pleading. The scent of old paper and her perfume make me feel nauseous. "Single," I repeat. The word flat, devoid of emotion. The excuse is so flimsy, so transparent. It's insulting. The cabin wasn't just property. It was Dad's legacy, a piece of his soul woven into the very timbers of the place. He'd promised it to me. I can almost hear his voice, warm and reassuring. "This will all be yours. Someday, Jake, keep it safe." My heart panics about losing that family legacy, the tangible link to my father. Derek, damn him, just sits there, that smug, self-satisfied look plastered on his face. He's always been like this, ever since Mom married his father. Entitled, grasping. He has the audacity to pat Mom's hand. "It's for the best, Jake. Keeps it in the family, right?" His tone is condescending, as if he's doing me a favor. I seethe quietly, the anger a cold, hard knot in my chest now. I won't give them the satisfaction of an outburst. Not here. Not like this. I take a slow, deliberate breath, forcing the tremor in my hands to still. The musty smell of the legal documents, a scent I usually associate with history and permanence, now just smells like deceit. My mind races. This can't be happening. There has to be something, some loophole, some way to fight this. But Mr. Henderson's apologetic look tells me everything is legally buttoned up. Mom has the right to do this. Dad left everything to her, assuming, as I did, that she would honor his clearly stated wishes. We both assumed wrongly. I pick up the deed, my fingers brushing against the crisp, expensive paper. My eyes scan the legal description, the precise metes and bounds outlining the property. And then I do it. My quiet power move. I look directly at Mr. Henderson, my voice calm, almost detached. "Could I see the full property survey, Mr. Henderson? I'm interested in the exact property boundaries and any documented lake access rights associated with this parcel." Mr. Henderson blinks, surprised by my composure, my specific request. "Of course, Jake." He shuffles through his briefcase, the leather creaking softly in the sudden silence. Mom and Derek exchange a confused glance. The silence in the room is thick, broken only by the crinkle of paper as Henderson pulls out a larger, folded document. The survey map. The metallic tang of unspoken tension fills the air. He spreads it on the table. It's detailed, showing the cabin lot, the surrounding parcels, the shoreline of the lake. My eyes trace the lines, the tiny printed notes, the easements. My gaze snags on a detail, a small notation near the edge of the property, something about an old access agreement. And then I see it. A series of adjacent lot numbers, all under one owner name, a name I don't recognize. The lines of ownership around the lake are a patchwork quilt, but this one owner controls a significant, almost continuous stretch. An idea, cold and sharp, begins to form in my mind. I feel a slow, cold smile touch my lips. It's not a smile of warmth, but of dawning, ruthless clarity. They think they've won. They have no idea what's coming. The scent of vanilla seems to fade, replaced by the crisp, clean smell of opportunity. The cabin wasn't just a building, it was a time capsule. Summers there, before Mom and Dad's divorce, were idyllic. I remember the rough feel of the wooden planks of the old dock beneath my bare feet, warmed by the morning sun. Dad would be there, patiently untangling my fishing line, his calloused hands gentle. "Patience, Jakey," he'd say, his voice a low rumble. "The fish aren't going anywhere." The rhythmic plop of the lure hitting the water, the distant cry of a loon across the shimmering surface at sunset. Those sounds are etched into my memory, a soundtrack to a happier time. He taught me how to clean a fish, how to skip stones, how to identify constellations in the vast, inky sky. "This will be yours someday, Jake," he'd whisper, his arm around my shoulder as we watched the embers of the campfire die down. "Promise me you'll take care of it." I cherished those moments, held them close even as our family fractured. Mom remarried when I was 16. Robert, Derek's father, was fine. A bit bland, a bit too eager to please Mom, but not a bad guy. Derek, though, was another story. He was 2 years younger than me, but carried himself with an air of unearned superiority. From day one, he treated the cabin like his personal playground, leaving his wet towels on the antique furniture, his muddy shoes on the handmade rugs Dad had prized. Mom, caught up in the glow of her new marriage, her new family, rarely corrected him. Her favoritism was a dull ache in my chest, a constant reminder of my displacement. The cabin, once our shared haven, became a source of quiet friction. The easy laughter Dad and I shared there was replaced by polite, strained conversations. The scent of Dad's pipe tobacco, which used to cling to the curtains, was slowly overpowered by the smell of Derek's sugary colognes. Dad's death 2 years ago was sudden. A heart attack, swift and brutal. The grief was a tidal wave pulling me under. The will reading was a formality. He'd left everything to Mom. At the time, it made sense. I was still in my late 20s, just getting my tech startup off the ground. She was his wife. I grieved the loss of my father, the man who taught me everything, the man whose quiet strength I tried to emulate. I assumed, with a naivety that now makes me cringe, that she would honor his wishes about the cabin. He'd been so clear, so adamant. It was for me. It was our special place. I pictured myself there, someday, with my own family, teaching my own kids to fish from that same old dock. Over the last 2 years, Mom had been vague whenever I brought it up. "We'll sort it out, Jake," she'd say, patting my hand, her eyes avoiding mine. "There's no rush." I see now that she was just biding her time, waiting for the right moment to pull the rug out from under me. The memory of Dad's voice, earnest and trusting, "This will be yours someday," now echoes with a bitter irony. I assumed wrongly, so very wrongly. The familiar scent of the lake, the pine, the damp earth, it all felt tainted now by her betrayal. Lying in bed that night, the lawyer's office scene replaying in my head, another memory surfaces. It's faint, like a half-forgotten dream. Dad, years ago, sitting on the cabin porch, a tumbler of iced tea sweating in his hand. He was looking out at the lake, a thoughtful expression on his face. I was complaining about something Derek had done, some minor act of teenage entitlement. Dad had just smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "Don't you worry about things like that, Jake," he'd said, his voice soft. "I've always got backup plans, for the important things." Backup plans. The phrase sticks in my mind. What had he meant? The comforting sound of the loons calling at sunset from those childhood memories feels like a distant beacon, a call to uncover something hidden. The next morning I skip work. My startup can manage without me for a day. This is more important. The drive to the Cabetagama County Records Office is fueled by a cold, simmering anger and a flicker of something else. Hope. Dad's words about backup plans echo in my mind. The county building is old, a relic of a bygone era, with tall, narrow windows and stone steps worn smooth by time. The air inside is thick with the smell of dust and old paper, a scent that yesterday felt like betrayal, but today feels like a treasure hunt. I start with the plat maps, meticulously tracing the ownership of every parcel of land bordering Serenity Lake. It's a slow, painstaking process. Most of the shoreline is, as I suspected from the lawyer's survey, a patchwork of small, privately owned lots, vacation homes, a few year-round residences. But then I find it again, the name from the notation on Henderson's survey. Harold Finch. Parcel after parcel, sprawling along the western and northern shores, all under his name. It's an enormous tract of land, largely undeveloped, wild, beautiful, just like Dad would have wanted it to stay. My pulse quickens. I investigate methodically, cross-referencing tax records, old deeds. Harold Finch owns nearly 80% of the undeveloped shoreline. He effectively controls the visual character of almost the entire lake. Finding Harold Finch takes a bit more digging. He's not listed in the local phone directory. A quick online search yields nothing current. I start calling local real estate agents, then nursing homes. Bingo. The Whispering Pines Care Facility, right here in town. The receptionist confirms he's a resident. The antiseptic smell of the nursing home is jarring after the dusty scent of the records office. It's a sterile, emotionless smell, tinged with the faint aroma of industrial cleaner and overcooked vegetables. I find Harold in a small, sunlit room, a plaid blanket tucked around his frail frame. He's ancient, his skin like parchment, but his eyes are sharp, alert. He smells faintly of Old Spice, a nostalgic scent that reminds me of Dad's generation. Mr. Finch? I introduce myself, keeping my voice gentle. My name is Jake Peterson. My father, Samuel Peterson, used to own the cabin on the south shore of Serenity Lake. Harold's eyes light up with a flicker of recognition. Sam Peterson, good man. Knew him years ago. Shame about his passing. His voice is thin, reedy, but his mind is clearly still sharp. We talk for a while, about the lake, about how it's changed, about the developers who are always sniffing around. Harold reveals he's been wanting to sell his land for years. Too much for me to manage now, even from here, he sighs, his gaze distant. But I don't trust those damn developers. They'd turn it into a concrete jungle. Chop down every tree, build those monstrous houses shoulder to shoulder, ruin it. He calculates precisely the kind of ruin they would bring. This is my opening, my quiet power move. Mr. Finch, I say, leaning forward, what if I told you I want to buy all of your lakefront property? And what if I told you I have no intention of developing it? I want to preserve it, keep it wild. I explain my connection to the lake, my father's love for it. I don't mention Mom or Derek or the betrayal. This isn't about that. This is about something bigger. Harold studies me, his gaze intense. The air in the little room feels charged. The antiseptic smell of the nursing home seems to recede, replaced by the imagined scent of pine and clean water. He negotiates shrewdly, asking about my intentions, my resources. I answer honestly, outlining a vision for conservation, for protecting the watershed. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, he nods slowly. All right, son, I'll sell it to you, on one condition. My heart leaps. Anything, Mr. Finch. You have to promise me, he says, his voice gaining a surprising strength, that you'll keep it the way it is. No fancy resorts, no golf courses. Keep it for the loons and the deer and the people who appreciate peace and quiet. I promise, I say, and I mean it with every fiber of my being. This aligns perfectly with what Dad would have wanted, with what I now realize I want. It's more than just a power play against Mom and Derek. It's a chance to honor my father in a way that truly matters. Harold smiles, a genuine, heartfelt smile that transforms his wrinkled face. Good. Then we have a deal. He extends a frail, trembling hand. As I shake it, a new thought occurs to me. Buying the land is one thing, but Harold's one condition. Preserve the natural beauty of the lake. That phrase sparks another idea. A way to make this truly ironclad, a way to ensure that no one, not even future generations, can undo what I'm about to do. But it's a complication, a legal labyrinth I'll have to navigate carefully. The Old Spice scent in the room seems to carry a hint of my father's quiet approval. Harold's condition, preserve the natural beauty of the lake, isn't a hurdle. It's an inspiration. It's the key to making this more than just an acquisition. It's about creating a legacy. Dad would have loved this. My mind races. How do I make that promise legally binding forever? The first step is capital. My tech startup, which I co-founded 5 years ago, went public last year. My stock options, once just numbers on a page, are now a substantial nest egg. A secret one, as far as Mom and Derek are concerned. They see me as the still single son, presumably struggling, not the guy who just cashed out a small fortune. I call my broker the next morning. Liquidate it, I tell him. All of it. The faint scent of the leather in my car as I drive away from that call feels like the smell of freedom, of possibility. Next, lawyers. Not Henderson and Black, obviously. I need specialists, environmental lawyers, experts in conservation easements. I find a highly recommended firm in the city. Their office smells of recycled paper and strong coffee, a scent of focused energy. I lay out my plan. I'm purchasing a significant tract of pristine shoreline, and I want to ensure it remains undeveloped in perpetuity. They get it immediately. They talk about tax benefits, about legal frameworks, about land trusts. It's complex, but it's doable. The scratch of their pens on yellow legal pads as they take notes is a strangely satisfying sound. The more I delve into it, the more audacious the plan becomes. With Harold Finch's land, I won't just own a piece of the shoreline, I'll own nearly 80% of it. Critically, this includes the land surrounding all existing access roads to the lake, including the one that leads to Dad's, now Derek's, cabin. A slow, grim satisfaction unfolds within me. I scheme carefully, mapping out every detail. My lawyers advise structuring the purchase through a limited liability company, an LLC. It offers protection, but more importantly, it offers anonymity. Serenity Shores Preservation, LLC, we call it. Untraceable to Jake Peterson, at least not easily. I orchestrate methodically, setting up the company, transferring the funds. The ink on the incorporation documents is a deep, satisfying black. The faint, metallic scent of the freshly printed certificates is the smell of control. Now, the delicious part? Planning how to legally and completely restrict Derek's access to his cabin. The cabin lot itself is an island in a sea of land that will soon be mine. Without an easement or right-of-way across my property, he won't be able to drive to it. He won't even be able to launch a boat from any of the existing boat ramps. They'll all be on Serenity Shores Preservation LLC land. He'll have a cabin he can see, but not easily reach. I anticipate their outrage, their sputtering fury, and a cold, hard knot of something that feels dangerously like revenge tightens in my gut. But I tell myself it's about conservation. It is about conservation. The access restriction is just a bonus. A very significant bonus. The closing date for the Finch property is set. My lawyers are efficient, Finch is eager, and the county is cooperative, especially when they hear about the conservation angle. The date happens to be Thursday, July 2nd. Derek and his precious family, as Mom informed me in a saccharine phone call I endured with gritted teeth, are planning to drive up for their first glorious weekend at their new cabin on Friday, July 3rd, for the long 4th of July weekend. The timing is exquisite. The faint, sweet scent of the expensive paper stock for the purchase agreements is almost intoxicating. I can almost taste their shock. The closing is almost anticlimactic. A quiet room, a notary, a stack of papers. Harold Finch is there, via video call from the nursing home, his voice frail but his eyes bright. "You're a good man, Jake," he says, once my signature on behalf of Serenity Shores Preservation LLC is affixed to the final document. "Your father would be proud." His words are a balm, cutting through the lingering bitterness of Mom's betrayal. The satisfying thunk of the notary's stamp on the deed echoes the feeling in my chest. Mission accomplished. The land is mine. The shoreline is protected. The air in the lawyer's office, though still smelling of paper and legalities, feels lighter now, charged with a different kind of energy. the energy of a promise fulfilled. The next few days are a blur of activity. I meet with several regional conservation groups. They're ecstatic about the scale of the Serenity Shores Preservation Project. We discuss habitat restoration, watershed protection, potential for limited public access, hiking trails on the periphery, far from the sensitive shoreline. Their enthusiasm is infectious, and it reinforces my conviction that this is the right path. This is bigger than family drama. This is about legacy, about giving something back. The earthy scent of the forest floor during a site walk with a biologist from the Loon Preservation Society feels like coming home. Then comes the less glamorous, but equally crucial part. The signs. Discreet, professionally made. Private property, Serenity Shores Preservation LLC. Access by permission only. We install them at the entrance to every old logging road, every dirt track, every historical access point that leads to the lake through what is now my land. The satisfying thunk of the metal posts going into the ground is a punctuation mark on my victory. Each sign is a small declaration of independence, a quiet assertion of control. The slightly oily scent of the new paint on the signs is sharp and definitive. I supervise the installation myself, ensuring each one is correctly placed, legally defensible. My team is small, just a couple of local guys I hired who are good with post-hole diggers and keeping their mouths shut. The sweat that trickles down my back under the hot July sun feels earned. Friday, July 3rd. I'm not there, but I can picture it perfectly. Derek, his wife Karen, and their two perpetually whining children, Liam and Olivia, packed into their oversized SUV, excited for their first weekend at their lake cabin. They probably sang annoying road trip songs all the way up. The anticipation, the entitlement. I allow myself a small, grim smile. My phone rings late that afternoon. It's a number I don't recognize, but I have a pretty good idea who it is. Jake? Jake Peterson, you son of a... Derek's voice is apoplectic, a sputtering engine of rage. I hold the phone slightly away from my ear. The sounds of children wailing in the background are faint, but discernible. Mission accomplished on that front, too. Derek? I say, my voice calm, almost bored. To what do I owe the pleasure? What the hell did you do? He screams. There are signs everywhere, private property. We can't get to the cabin. We drove all the way up here. The kids are crying. Karen is furious. The raw panic in his voice is music to my ears. He dominates the conversation with his fury, but it's an impotent fury. Signs? I feign mild surprise. Oh, you must mean the Serenity Shores Preservation LLC property. Yes, they're quite keen on protecting the natural environment. Trespassing is frowned upon, I hear. The faint scent of the mosquito repellent I'd used earlier that week while checking the sign placements comes back to me. A tiny, triumphant sensory note. Serenity Shores pre-what now? What the hell is that? This is our cabin. Mom gave it to us, he bellows. He has no idea who he's dealing with. Indeed, she gave you the cabin. A lovely little building, I'm sure, sitting on its own designated lot. I pause, letting the silence stretch. She didn't, however, give you the legal right to cross several miles of privately owned conservation land to get to it. An unfortunate oversight on her part, I suppose. I can almost smell the dust from the dirt road they're undoubtedly parked on, the frustration radiating through the phone. A beat of stunned silence. Then, you bought it? All that land? Disbelief wars with fury in his tone. He's finally starting to understand the scale of this. He calculates the implications, and the sound is one of dawning horror. Let's just say I'm an investor in sustainable nature preservation, I reply smoothly. My quiet power move. Now, Derek, I'm a reasonable man. I understand your predicament. So I'm prepared to offer you a solution. A simple right-of-way agreement. A license to cross the LLC's land to access your cabin. For a fee, of course. A fee? He splutters. How much? $500,000, I say, the number rolling off my tongue with casual indifference. A bargain, really, considering the inconvenience. I control access. I control everything. The explosion on the other end of the line is predictable. Threats, curses, accusations. I listen patiently. When he finally winds down, sputtering, I hear Mom's voice in the background, shrill and angry. "Give me that phone, Derek!" A moment later, she's on the line. "Jacob Samuel Peterson, you will meet us at the cabin property line, now. We need to discuss this, as a family." Her voice trembles with rage, the same rage I felt in the lawyer's office. Oh, how the tables have turned. The metallic tang of impending confrontation is sharp in the air. "All right, Mother," I say, my voice still infuriatingly calm. "I'll be there in an hour." The thought of seeing their faces, of the impending confrontation, sends a shiver of anticipation down my spine. The game is far from over. The edge of what used to be the access road to the cabin is a tense tableau. Derek's SUV is parked haphazardly, coated in a fine layer of dust. He's pacing, his face flushed, kicking at a loose stone. Karen is trying to comfort Liam and Olivia, who are red-faced and wailing, their cries echoing slightly in the humid afternoon air. The sound of Derek's kids crying because they can't reach the water is a surprisingly potent sensory detail, a testament to their thwarted desires. Mom stands apart, arms crossed, her face a mask of cold fury. The air smells of hot dust, pine needles, and the faint, cloying scent of cheap children's sunscreen. I pull up in my own truck, parking a respectful distance away, on my side of the newly erected private property sign. I get out, leaning casually against the fender. I'm on my land. They are not. The psychological advantage is palpable. "Jake!" Mom marches towards the sign, stopping just short of it as if it's an invisible electric fence. "What is the meaning of this? This vindictiveness? You're destroying this family!" Her voice is sharp, accusing. The gentle rustling of leaves in the trees above seems to mock her anger. "Vindictiveness, Mom?" I raise an eyebrow. I thought I was engaging in responsible land stewardship, protecting the environment. Isn't that a good thing? I confront them boldly, my tone even, betraying none of the turmoil this whole situation has cost me. Derek stomps over, his fists clenched. "Don't play coy, Jake. You did this to spite us, to spite me. You couldn't stand that I got the cabin." He gestures wildly towards the cabin, just visible through the trees, a tantalizing but unreachable promise. The rough bark of the pine tree I'm near feels grounding under my fingertips. "The cabin," I say slowly, "was promised to me by Dad. A promise you and Mom decided to ignore." My voice is quiet, but it carries. This isn't about spite, Derek. It's about honoring his memory in a way you clearly couldn't comprehend. "Legal action," Derek sputters, his face turning an even deeper shade of red. "We'll sue you. We'll get an easement by necessity. You can't just landlock us." He devastates their plans with his threats, but they feel hollow. I smile faintly. "You can certainly try, Derek, but easement by necessity is a tricky thing, especially when the necessity was created by a rather questionable property transfer in the first place, and when the surrounding land is a dedicated conservation area. The courts tend to look favorably on environmental protection. I'd done my homework. My lawyers were very clear on this point. The scent of wild mint, crushed underfoot nearby, is surprisingly sharp and refreshing. "You have to be reasonable, Jake," Karen chimes in, her voice tight with anxiety. The children are devastated. They were so looking forward to this. Reasonable? I echo. Was it reasonable to snatch away something that was promised to me for years? Was it reasonable for Mom to lie to me, to lure me to the lawyer's office under false pretenses? Mom steps forward again, her eyes blazing. I did what I thought was best for my family. And Dad wasn't family? The question hangs in the air, heavy and unanswered. I see a flicker of something in her eyes. Guilt? Regret? But it's gone as quickly as it appears. I take a breath, then calmly explain the environmental benefits of my conservation plan. I talk about the watershed, the wildlife habitats, the long-term vision for Serenity Shores Preservation LLC. I watch their faces. Derek is still fuming, but Karen and even Mom are listening, a dawning understanding in their expressions. This is bigger than their weekend getaway. Then, I play another card. Dad worried about you, Derek, I say, my gaze steady on him. He worried about your character, your acquisitiveness. I reach into my pocket and pull out a small, folded bundle of letters. Dad's handwriting. He wrote to me after you and Mom got married. He expressed his concerns. He was afraid you'd try to sell the cabin or worse, develop the land around it if you ever got your hands on it. The musty smell of the old letters, Dad's familiar scent, fills the small space between us. I see the shock on their faces. Mom looks like she's been slapped. Derek is speechless. I control the narrative now. This plan, I say, gesturing to the pristine forest around us, ensures that Dad's real legacy, his love for this lake, is protected. Forever. Silence. Even the children have stopped crying, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Then, my quiet power move. The one that isn't about revenge, but about a sliver of something else. Compromise? Or just highlighting their powerlessness? Look, I say, my voice softening slightly. I'm not a complete monster. I'm prepared to offer you limited access. 2 weekends a year. Pre-approved dates. Strict rules about noise and environmental impact. No permanent dock. No motorized boats beyond a small fishing skiff. Derek looks like he's about to explode again, but Mom places a restraining hand on his arm. She's looking at me. Really looking at me. Perhaps for the first time in years. The anger in her eyes has been replaced by a complex mix of emotions I can't quite decipher. But she's not done fighting. Not yet. She plays her final card. If you do this, Jake, she says, her voice low and trembling, if you don't sign over an unconditional easement right now, I will cut you out of my will. Completely. You'll get nothing. The threat hangs there, stark and ugly. The distant hum of a boat motor from the far side of the lake, a sound of carefree recreation, seems to underscore the tension here. I almost laugh. She still doesn't get it. She still thinks this is about money. Your will, Mom? I say. And this time I do laugh, a short, humorless sound. You think I care about your will? About your money? I shake my head. I have everything I need. The faint scent of pine needles from the forest floor, warmed by the afternoon sun, feels clean, untainted by their greed. I pull another document from my truck, a copy of the conservation easement, legally recorded, ironclad. This, I say, holding it up, is what matters. This easement protects almost the entire shoreline of Serenity Lake, forever. It can't be developed, it can't be subdivided. It can't be ruined by anyone's greed or short-sightedness. I watch as the understanding dawns on their faces, particularly Mom's. The truth is a harsh light. Eventually, I continue, my voice softer now, the plan is for Serenity Shores Preservation LLC to donate the land to a public trust. It will become a nature preserve, for everyone to enjoy, responsibly. I let that sink in. Their coveted private playground, their little fiefdom, was never going to be truly theirs in the way they imagined. The gentle lapping of waves against the distant shore, a sound I've loved since childhood, seems to underscore the permanence of my actions. Derek's family, especially Karen, looks stricken. They're stuck with a cabin they can barely access, a cabin whose primary value, its connection to the lake, is now severely curtailed by my actions. The children, sensing the finality, start to whimper again. The sound is no longer triumphant to my ears, just sad. The victory feels a little hollow, tinged with the understanding of the bridges I've burned. Mom stares at me, her face pale. The fight seems to have drained out of her. You did all this to protect his memory, she whispers, her voice hoarse. The anger is gone, replaced by a dawning, painful comprehension. She finally understands that my motivations were not rooted in simple revenge, but in a fierce, protective love for my father and the place he cherished. It was about protecting his legacy from her and from Derek. It liberates the truth that has been buried under years of resentment. Yes, Mom, I say quietly. I did. My quiet power move this time is one of inclusion, not exclusion, but on my terms. I'm inviting Uncle Joe and Aunt Carol and my cousins to be on the advisory board for the conservation project, I announce. Dad's side of the family. The ones who truly understood his connection to this place. The ones Mom has systematically alienated since his death. Their involvement will ensure his spirit truly lives on here. The faint, sweet smell of wild raspberries growing nearby is a reminder of the simple, natural beauty I'm fighting to protect. Mom turns away, her shoulders slumped, defeated. It's not the victory I imagined. There's no elation, just a quiet sense of closure, of a difficult task completed. My actions transform their understanding of me, of Dad, of the cabin itself. I prepare to leave. There's nothing more to say. I've laid my cards on the table. I've protected what matters. As I turn to walk back to my truck, the heavy silence is broken. Jake, wait. It's Derek. His voice is different. The anger, the bluster, it's gone. Replaced by something I can't quite identify. Resignation. Maybe something more. He takes a hesitant step towards the property line, stopping just short of the sign. He looks smaller somehow. The afternoon sun casts long shadows, and the forest around us seems to hold its breath. What now? Derek shoves his hands into his pockets, his gaze fixed on the dusty ground at his feet. He looks up, and for the first time I see something other than arrogance or anger in his eyes. It looks like exhaustion. I never even wanted the damn cabin, Jake, he admits, his voice low, almost a mumble. The confession hangs in the air, unexpected. The faint scent of decaying leaves from the forest floor seems to emphasize the raw, unfiltered honesty of the moment. Mom pressured me, he continues, kicking at a loose pebble. She kept saying it would be a good investment, something I could sell later, you know? Flip it. Make a bundle. He glances towards Mom, who stands rigidly by the SUV, her back to us, a statue of maternal disapproval. She said you wouldn't know what to do with it, that you'd just let it sit there. The pieces click into place. Mom's weak excuse about Derek needing it for his family? That was just a smokescreen. Her real plan was always about the money. She wanted Derek to have it so he could sell it, and she, no doubt, would expect a significant cut. She was planning to profit from Dad's legacy, to turn his sanctuary into cash. The realization sickens me, but it also, strangely, lessens some of my anger towards Derek. He was a pawn, albeit a willing one. My heart forgives reluctantly, not for his actions, but for the manipulation he also endured. She promised him the lake cabin again, I think. the opening words of this whole mess echoing in my head. She'd likely been working on him for a while, dangling it like a carrot. Derek sighs, a heavy, weary sound. Look, this whole thing, it's a mess. But the kids, they were looking forward to a cabin, any cabin. He makes an unexpected proposal. What if I donate the cabin back to you, or to your LLC thing, in exchange for, I don't know, guaranteed access, a couple of weeks a year? We can work something out, something fair. The familiar creak of weathered wood from the distant, unseen cabin dock seems to drift on the breeze, a reminder of what this is all really about. I consider it. The cabin itself, separate from the land, holds memories, Dad's memories, my memories. And it's sitting there, unused, slowly decaying, while Derek technically owns it but can't reach it, feels wrong. It feels like a Pyrrhic victory. I'll think about it, Derek, I say. And I mean it. My focus has been on the land, on the preservation. The structure itself is secondary, but not unimportant. But if it comes back into my control, it stays in Dad's family line. For good, no selling, ever. I protect what matters, and the cabin, Dad's cabin, does matter. Derek nods quickly. Understood, absolutely. Karen, who has been listening intently, walks over and touches his arm. She looks at me, a small, tired smile on her face. Thank you, Jake, she says softly. For preserving something beautiful, even if it's not ours. Her sincerity surprises me. Perhaps there's hope for some semblance of peace eventually. Mom, however, is having none of it. She storms over, her face a thundercloud. Derek, what are you doing? Don't you dare give it back to him. But her voice lacks its earlier conviction. She knows she's lost. Derek just shakes his head, a newfound firmness in his expression. It's done, Mom. She glares at me, then at him, then whirls around and gets into the SUV, slamming the door with a resounding thud that echoes through the quiet woods. The engine roars to life, and she speeds off, leaving a cloud of dust and unresolved anger in her wake. Good riddance. Derek, Karen, and the now subdued children pile into their own car. I'll have my lawyer call yours, Derek says, sounding almost apologetic. And then they're gone too. Silence descends. A profound, peaceful silence, broken only by the chirping of crickets and the rustle of leaves. I walk past the private property sign, onto the path that leads to the cabin. The air is cooler here, beneath the dense canopy of trees. The scent of pine is rich and deep. I reach the clearing. The cabin stands there, just as I remember it. Weathered, sturdy, a little bit sad. I walk onto the old wooden dock. The familiar creak of the boards under my feet is a comforting sound. I sit on the edge, dangling my legs over the water, just like I used to do with Dad. The sun is beginning to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, the colors reflecting on the calm surface of my protected lake. I feel a profound sense of peace, a quiet satisfaction that goes deeper than just winning a fight. I've honored my father. I've protected his legacy. I've found peace at last. I reach into my back pocket and pull out a worn, creased envelope. It's one of the letters Dad wrote to me, the one I'd skimmed before, but hadn't fully absorbed until now. I unfold it carefully. His familiar handwriting fills the page. Dear Jake, it begins. If you're reading this, it probably means your mother has done something unpredictable with the cabin. I've worried about this more than you know. She means well in her own way, but she doesn't always see things clearly, especially when it comes to Derek and his father's influence. That's why I set up a little something on the side, a backup plan, just in case. Harold Finch is a good man. He understands what Serenity Lake truly is. He'll know what to do if the time comes. Remember what's important, son. It's not about ownership, not really. It's about stewardship. Protect the lake. That's all I ask. A slow smile spreads across my face. Dad had always known this day might come. He'd seen the writing on the wall, even back then. He'd planted the seeds, trusted me to figure it out. And I had. The last rays of the sun dip below the horizon, and the first stars begin to prick the darkening sky. The loons call out, their hauntingly beautiful song echoing across the water. Everything is as it should be.